Good afternoon, good afternoon. Let me take these keys off. Okay. Ah, mm. All right. Good afternoon, y'all. Thank you all for tuning in to another segment of Message Chin. Mm. I have a decent message I want to give you all today. This is something that has actually been in my spirit all day today. And kind of got caught up in a few other things or whatever, but I will say that I am guilty and I apologize and I'm actually sorry to my father for this, but I am guilty of delayed obedience. I've heard many a times of being said that, delayed obedience is just like being disobedient, you know what I'm saying? It is still disobedient. So, I admit, yes, it's delayed because, like I said, I allow a lot of other things or whatever to get get me distracted or whatever, and I tended to it or whatever. However, God say, I'm not gonna let you go. I'm not gonna, you know what I mean, stop what they call it, like nudging you or whatever until you get this out. So nonetheless, I have to be obedient and come and get this out, right? So again, this message is decent. If you all have read my caption, my title, my description, it says, it's basically about knowing when to say no and don't be afraid to do so. But before I get started, I do want to say this. Uh, Regarding my video from yesterday, where a couple of people got in the chat and was saying, how I was ignoring, how I was just steady talking and not acknowledging, people. I will say this, I tend to, when I come on here to deliver a message, I want to get my message out, you know what I'm saying, so that I won't get distracted or whatever. I want to get my message out first. And then, later on, if I have time and I pay attention to whatever, I'll notice the comments or whatever, and I may speak back to you. However, I don't always expect that. I don't always expect for people to, say things or whatever. But again, I stay tunnel vision, focus on what it is that I'm here to do, which is deliver the message and, just get that out the way. But I will say this out of respect to you all, to my audience or whatever. I don't mean any harm. You know what I mean? And I do not purposely ignore anyone. You know what I mean? And I thank you all for the love so much. I really do. So I want to, and as a matter of fact, one day I will, if God grant me that, I'll be able to come on here and I will actually make it a day personally for you all. You know what I mean? Where it won't be where depicting a particular message or whatever, but I will make a special day for you all. How about that? Okay. I love you all so much. I really do. And I appreciate you. But now, with that being said, God put it in my spirit today. I was watching Girlfriends, with Joan, what is her name? Stacey Ellis Ross. And so Girlfriends, I was watching Girlfriends, and uh, it was herself, Joan, and she was saying something. I think it was Tony. But anyway, she didn't want to say no. Actually, she was doing therapy, and Tony was angry with her. Tony didn't want her doing therapy or whatever, whatever. So, but the therapist was telling Joan about how to, finally stand up for herself to say no when that time is, because she was like, she's always a yes person. That's what I assume. You know what I'm saying? And I can very much relate because I'm usually a yes person, you know what I mean? I'm always like doing things for everyone, letting people, basically walk all over me or whatever. And I know that until I start setting boundaries and start setting up for myself and speaking up or whatever for myself, then that's how it was. So I don't want to jump too fast, jump ahead rather. But anyway, getting back to the show. He was the therapist telling her learn to say no. If they ask you this or whatever and you don't feel like doing it, what I'm saying, stand your ground, say no. You don't always have to say, oh, okay, whatever. Say no. And it was a hard thing for me, and I actually had to learn it the hard way. But it's say no sometimes. You know what I'm saying? You don't mean no harm, but at the same time, you have respect for yourself. You have boundaries for yourself. You get what I'm saying? You have feelings or whatever. If you don't feel like doing it, if you're too tired, then you know what I'm saying, it's okay to say no sometimes. It's like a person just have to accept it. Now I say I can relate because it's always has been that way for me. As you all know, I do share my stories. I do share my stories and experiences about how it was, raising my children. Like I mentioned yesterday, I was always trying to be their friends, and I would allow them to do X, Y, Z, or whatever. I was turning my head or whatever, but I would always like basically just give them what is it, the leeway, allow them or whatever. Instead of me saying no, you can't do that. No, you can't go outside. No, I don't have time. No, I can't get to that. You know what I mean? So that's just what it was. So anyway, like I was saying, God allowed me to, I guess, reflect on that because again, I was there. You know what I mean? And it played a big role into what caused me to not be such a good parent or be the parent that I need to be. You know what I mean? I was a yes man, if you will. Of course, I'm a female, but I was a yes man. And it's like, okay, people come by, well, can I use your car? Can I have this? Can I borrow this? Can I borrow that? Whatever. And I was always, well, yes, because I was afraid how they would perceive me. I didn't want to look like the villain in their eyes. I didn't want to look like the mean person in their eyes. I always wanted to be accepted. So, thus, Joan was saying the same thing to her therapist. She's like, they're going to be mad at me. And I forgot what else she said or whatever, but okay, that's not only pertaining to Tony, but of course it was with Maya and then with the other one, Lynn, or whatever. So she was saying like they're gonna be mad at me. And like I said, I can relate oh so well because it was like always like, okay, well, they're gonna be mad at me, they're gonna judge me, they're not gonna like me, they're not gonna spend time with me, they're not gonna do this, XYZ. I still have that issue to this day. You know what I mean? Thinking like, okay, if I say certain things or whatever, then they're not gonna like it or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, okay, you gotta realize first of all, you gotta be true to yourself. Okay. You know what you can take. I'm sorry. You know what you can take. You know what you can handle. You know what you can stand. You know what you can muster, meaning put up with or whatever. I've heard many people say, even my therapist, you know what I'm saying? You don't always have to answer your phone. You don't always have to be at everyone's beck and call. It's time, sometimes you got to take time out. You got to give yourself some time. You know the phrase me time. So everybody deserves me time. So why could they have their me time, but I can't have mine? You know what I'm saying? So stop worrying about what people will think, what they'll say about you. You know what I'm saying? You have to be or do what's healthy for you. Um, but yeah, when I heard that and I was like, wow, at that time, and I was like, that's me, God. That's me, God. So again, God uses certain things or whatever to speak to me, and then I will reflect on things or whatever. Wow. So I'm so glad to be in a place of healing. Okay. So that brings me to where I can share with you all. I know that I'm not by myself. Obviously not, because like I said, I've seen the show and what I heard, whatever, it reminded me of who and how I used to be. So I know that there are other people out there that are like that or whatever. We don't always have to be a yes man. Who cares what they will think? You know what I mean? I mean, of course you care, but at the same time, you care what they think more than you care about your own health, about your own healing, how you feel about yourself, how you see yourself. You understand what I'm saying? So sometimes you just have to set those boundaries and you have to stand your ground. You have to speak up. You have to say no sometimes. Because guess what? If you say yes all the time to whatever, you could be breaking yourself down. You understand? And that's everybody is always expecting from you, expecting from you, expecting from you. And it's like, well, damn, but what about when you can't give them what they want? Okay. What about that? What about when you're not able to? What about you don't have gas in your car? What about your car has flat tires or whatever? You can't do that. So it's like, do they consider that? Some people do and some people don't. But you got to consider it first. You got to think about it yourself. You got to do what's good for you. Okay. As I always heard, how can you be good for someone else if you can't be good for yourself? They would always say that you have to be well for yourself. You got to take care of you so that you can be there, whether it be for kids, whether it be for your husband or wife, you know what I'm saying, your lover, your friends, your neighbors, community. You got to take care of yourself first, because if you can't do you or take care of yourself or show up for yourself first, then you can't show up for them. That's how it usually is. But I know that sometimes it be the other way around. So mainly myself, like I said, I'm always there for them. I'm always showing up to different events and everything or whatever. But I'm tired as I don't know what. It's like, God, at some point you got to set them boundaries. Yes, you do. It took. I was not scrolling, Lord. I was actually going through my Bible trying to find a word that will line up with my message, which is to know when to say no and don't be afraid to do so. But and it's like, okay, what scriptures? What scriptures? So then God had me to think back on what I was reading last night, which was John chapter 8. I know I did it yesterday, but he had me to go back, so I had to revisit it, and there was some verses or whatever that stood out, and I'm actually going to read that to you. And again, I'll make a quick. I said I wasn't going to be before you all too long because I'm in the middle of doing something, and I just, like I said, God is steady nudging me, say, okay, you got to get this word out, you got to get this message out. So prompted me to be here, you know what I mean, to do this. Okay, so right quick, John chapter 8, and I'm gonna start it. I almost sounded like Gorilla. But anyway, not Gorilla. What's her name? Glorilla. So I'm Florilla. Let the spirit flow. Okay. But anyway, chapter 8 and verse 3, it says, "And the scribes and Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery. And when they had set her in the midst," number 4, "they say unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. Now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what sayest thou?" Verse 6, "This they said, tempting Jesus. They, they said, tempting him that they might have to accuse him." So people was looking for a way to fault Jesus, trying to basically catch him up. But anyway, it said, "But Jesus stooped down with his fingers and wrote on the ground as though he heard them not." So he was ignoring them, like, I'm gonna keep on minding my business. Well, sometimes we gotta ignore the foolery around us. Sometimes we gotta ignore people. They're talking out the side of their neck. They're talking at us or whatever, but it don't make no, you know what I mean? It don't make no sense. It's like you are accusing me. You're falsely accusing me, by the way. But it's like, you know what? I ain't got time for that. And listen. I want to share an experience of my own regarding that, but maybe not right now. If I can remember, I'll get back to it. But anyway, verse I said I'm gonna be, I'm not gonna be reading everything verbatim, but I'm gonna skip a little bit. So we know the story when they brought the woman who was committing adultery or whatever, and say that, okay, Moses said to stone her. But Jesus said, okay, he without sin cast the first stone. And we know that everybody just disappeared, right? Because there was no one among them that did not have no sin. So it's like, neither one of them to stone her, because it's like, dang, well, we guilty too. So, okay. So anyway, I'm coming over to verse 12. "Then spake Jesus again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life." Verse 13, "The Pharisees therefore said unto him, Thou bearest record of thyself. Thy record is not true." So they're rebuttaling. They're refusing to believe what Jesus is saying, such as Jesus saying, "I am the light. I am the way." You know what I mean? So Jesus telling them who he is, but yet they're refusing to believe him. I'm going somewhere with it. Okay, so keep up. Okay, and then I'm going down to verse 19. Yeah, I'm skipping a lot. Then, so right quick, if you all are familiar with it, you know what I'm skipping, right? And if you're not familiar, I've asked you to go back and read chapter 8, John chapter 8, read the whole chapter, okay? And then you'll definitely know exactly what's what, right? But anyway, verse 19, it says, "Then they said unto him, Where is thy father?" Jesus answered, Ye neither know me nor my Father. If you had known me, ye should also know my Father. Okay? So we know, as Jesus said, I am my Father. I come in my Father's image. Basically, I am my Father, because we know the word says Jesus was God in the flesh, right? Okay. So I'm skipping more, whatever. So I'm going over to verse 25. Then said they unto him, Who art thou? They asked him again. And Jesus saith unto them, Even the same that I said unto you from the beginning. 26. I have many things to say and to judge of you, but he that sent me is true. And I speak to the world those things which I have heard of him, that he heard of God. God is his witness. God said that he is who he is. Jesus just repeating to them what God said, right? So I'm gonna go down to not 36, 51, I guess. Yeah, I skipped a lot. And I won't tell you why. Like I said, read chapter 8 and you'll see for yourselves. But anyway, I'm just trying to get to the, wrap up so I can have my point. Okay. But verse 51, Jesus said, Verily, verily, I say unto you, if a man keep my saying, he shall never see death. 52, then said the Jews unto him, Now we know that thou hast the devil. They're saying he's a devil, saying he's wrong. You're a liar. No, you can't be who you say you are. They said, Then said the Jews unto him, Now we know that thou hast a devil. Abraham is dead, and the prophets, and thou sayest, If a man keep my saying, he shall never taste of death. Like, how can you make that promise? How can you say we won't see death? Who are you? They still questioning the same question. Remember, he said, I'm the same person I told y'all before. So they're refusing to say, Oh, you are who you say you are. Okay. So now verse 57. Then said the Jews unto him, Thou art not yet 50 years old. Hast thou even seen Abraham? 59. So then they took on, let me go back. 58. Jesus said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was I. Before Abraham was, I am. Meaning I was here before Abraham. So yeah, I speak my words, I speak the truth, and this is what it is. Once again, verse 59. Then they took up stones to cast at him. But Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple, going through the midst of them, and so passed by. So Jesus hid himself in the crowd. Then, you know what I mean? Somehow, he dispersed himself. He got out of there or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But my point that I'm making, these Pharisees, the Jews, they said they asking him, Who are you? Who are you? Jesus say, Well, I am him, and woo woo woo, and I'm my Father. Nah, you're a devil. Who are you? Jesus said, I told you this before. This is who I am. So they say, Nah, you ain't seen Abraham. You ain't seen my daddy. Who are you? Jesus said, Yes, I am. So now you a devil. Now we gonna kill you. See, there's that no. They refuse to hear the truth. They refuse to accept Jesus at his word. So yet, didn't they continue to say no? They kept saying, no, you're not him. No, you can't be sent. No, you are not who you say you are. How many of us in this world today experience that? Like I said, I will tell you all my story briefly. About, I say, 3-4 days. Now I'm gonna say almost a week ago. Okay, I'm guessing. But anyway, short. Make it long story short if I can. Anyway, a particular I'm kind of new to where I am, new area, whatever y'all. Excuse me. And you know how it is when you do around. Everybody want to try you. Everybody want to talk to you. Whatever. You know what I'm saying. So anyway, there's one guy. He was trying to talk to me, and I'm not gonna lie. Initially, seemed like a good person with him, so we just changed numbers or whatever. Then gradually, as time went on, it's like, no. Once again, that no, you can't be who you say you are. You say you a decent person, but no, I don't see that. So anyway, make a long story short, I stopped communicating as much or whatever. Even ended up having to block because of some other little mess or whatever that was going on around the building. Bring it fast forward to maybe 6, 7 months later, approaches me. Oh, so you're not my friend no more? Well, yeah, I do, because I still socialize. I don't know what you want out of a friend or in this friendship or whatever. I socialize, but am I finna do XYZ, which is, the bed thing and all the stuff or whatever? No, I'm not doing that. That's not the type of friendship that I want. Okay. Again, my boundaries, my standard. I don't want that. So you respect that, okay? But anyway, Nate, the approach or said something like, "Well, I don't have to kiss your ass to be your friend." I never asked for that. I never said that. You know what I'm saying? Just respect me for who I am and respect my wishes. And it went all to like a kind of like an argument, but then I ceased it. I'm like, you know what? I ain't got time for it. So I left. But as I'm going inside and going down the hallway, I hear him talking. No, I asked him a question, like who was talking about me, who said something about my eye, and etc. etc. Thinking that he would own up or fess up or whatever, or just giving him a chance to do so. He didn't, what I'm saying, denied and everything. I said, okay. But see, like I said, I'm not a messy person. I said, you know what? Okay, whatever. And I walked away. But as I'm walking away, I'm him. Well, she said it, y'all. So now he done implicated someone else, brought them in it, drugged them into it or whatever. I went to my apartment, dropped off my bags or whatever, and I came back up and I was like, well, I want to clear the air. I'm going too fast. Went and smoked a cigarette or whatever. He's sitting out like in a intimidating fashion or whatever it is. He's going to frighten me from, you get what I'm saying? So anyway, I came in and I said, I want to clear the air. I never said anything about anybody else doing anything or whatever. I asked him the question just to see if he would be honest. And then he came in, why you bring it up? Why you studying for whatever? That's them demons. They don't want to be exposed, honey. They don't want to be exposed. So I'm like, well, I have a right to say what I have to say, clear the air, whatever. That's me. And he said something to the fact, well, woo, 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 you started what? No, I'm not. You know what? I'm gone. I'm gone from it. I said, you know what? I was just trying to give you a chance to see if you would be honest. He's like, well, you asked me, woo, and I said, I don't know. I said, you know why? Because it was you. It was you that said that. It was you that said something about my tattoo. It was you that ridiculing me. It's you that judged me, etc. Whatever. But I'm like, but I'm good. I'm leaving the scene. Next thing you know, another guy that was, in the midst or whatever, they too start arguing or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so chaotic at this point. And I'm like, woo! Mm-mm. So I had to move myself. But my point for sharing that, like I said, you know what I'm saying, you got to have your boundaries. And it's like, okay, I said, no, I'm not going to just let you say that's my no. I'm not going to just let you just paint a picture of me, have your own narrative of me, say whatever you want to say about me or whatever, and I don't defend myself. Meaning, when she said y'all. No, I didn't. I didn't say anything about y'all and nobody else to that in that respect. You know what I'm saying? I didn't say that. I asked you a question, but now you trying to turn it around and put it on me and drag me and this and that or whatever because you were not man enough to do what was right. You know what I'm saying? Which is basically tell the truth. But okay, I'm gonna let you have that. Meanwhile, I'm back in my energy is like it's all, it's over. It's water under the bridge for me. However, you do have neighbors, but I heard it. And every other day, somebody coming, girl, I got your back. Girl, this my bag don't need to be got. Can I get my bag back, please? I made a skit. Can I get my bag back, please? I don't feed into that because I know how demons work. I know how they are. They don't want to be exposed. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm setting my boundaries. I don't have time for it. I don't have time for the negativity. I don't have time for people lying. I just don't have time for it. You know what I'm saying? But the whole thing is about he's angry with me because I say no. No. That's not the type of friendship I want. You got boundaries. You can't call me. I block you. No, 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 no. So again, it may cause some strife. It may cause some confusion. Thank you, God, for 432. But it may cause somebody to be uncomfortable or whatever. But exactly, not exactly. But at the end of the day, how do you feel? If it's something that you use to protect yourself, if it's something that that's making you mentally well, spiritually well, or whatever, it's about you, okay? And that is definitely not being selfish because at the end of the day, like I said, you have to be healthy. You have to be well for yourself, okay? So sometimes you have to put your foot down. You have to say no. Know when to say no, and don't be afraid to do it, okay? But yeah, that's it. I'm like, Lord Jesus. A lot of me saying yes or being a yes man or whatever has got me in trouble. I got a lot of trouble, you know. So you just gotta know when to do it, when to cut it off, however. Set your boundaries, you know what I'm saying, if you will. But anyway, that's it. Now I'm gonna take the time to look into the comments, see what I have missed, okay? Cause not for one second, I don't want y'all to think that I ignore you. Hey, King 180, Baroka, not Adam. Hi, my girlfriend's gave birth. Oh, congratulations. Your girlfriend gave birth. Congratulations. Not Adam just got a new baby. His girlfriend gave birth or whatever. So hi, I'm from Sri Lanka. You are very beautiful. Oh, baby, thank you. Thank you so much. And Gayantha, Sandeep. Yes, God bless you. See, that's what I'm talking about. I like comments that actually want to be positive and say things. You don't have to. You get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying. Say what you want to say, but not negative. You know what I mean? At some point, I'm gonna learn how to block people or whatever. But I'm not in the blocking business now right now because I know that God has a word for people, and people need to get that. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people can be feeling so nasty, so angry, and shut up and bitter, whatever. But it's a good word that can change their whole life around, and that's what I want to do. As I say in all my videos and different things or whatever, I want to connect. I want to connect. I wish that I had someone wanting and reaching out to connect with me. You know what I'm saying? All we need, and I do this with therapy. A lot of times we just want somebody to hear us out. A lot of times we need just want people to talk to us. You know what I mean? Give me a chance to get to know me or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It don't take much, but yeah. So that's the big thing for me. But let me see. 11. A woman should learn in quietness and full submission. I do not permit a woman to teach or to assume authority over a man. She must be quiet. Okay. I don't know what that's about, flabba jabba, but okay. Your opinion is your opinion. However, you may have more than likely taken something out of context what I said. It's not about trying to rule over a man. It's not about trying to, you get what I'm saying, be argumentative with a man. However, I am a woman. Yes, I am a woman. I am a queen, in fact. And I do have the authority to stand up for myself, regardless of who will feel any type of way. Now, just because you give that leadership to the man, you let the man, you know what I'm saying, rule. And I'm very much strong with that. You're a man, and you're especially of my household. You're the man of my household. You're the king of my household, of course. But we're going to have a place, a space where, okay, you have your opinion, I have my opinion. You're not going to just say what you want to say about me, and I just take it and just eat it or whatever. And it's like, oh, you don't falsely accuse me or whatever. No, that's not, that's not my, I don't know. That's not my makeup. Okay. But anyway, again, like I said, I don't want to be, argumentative or, uh, uh, ah, complicated or whatever. I don't do that. I don't do that. No man, no man. I do let men be men. Okay, I believe in that strongly. I do believe in that strongly. But if you a messy man and you can't let me be me, you can't let me live my reality. You want to talk about me. You want to drag my name to the door. You want to accuse me. You want to judge me, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I do have a right to stand up for myself. And may not confront you like that, but I got a right to speak to the audience. You understand what I'm saying? I don't know. But you took that wrong, obviously. But I respect that. Okay. That's your opinion, and it is what it is. Okay. But anyway, y'all, like I said, I don't want to be here alone because I have other things to do. But I have to get that out. Otherwise, God ain't gonna let me rest. Okay. Not on that. Okay. But anyway, I thank y'all for tuning in, being a part of Message 10, hearing me out. And I think everybody, I didn't get no negative comments today. Hallelujah. Now, maybe some come up later on. I don't know. But anyway, I know, like I said yesterday, it's like sometimes I can read the comments or whatever, and I do get distracted easily. You know what I'm saying? I may as well have been diagnosed with ADHD. Like I mentioned, I do have bipolar. I do have borderline personality. I can't even get it out. Borderline personality disorder, bipolar, and PTSD. And there may be some other stuff going on or whatever. Only God knows. That's why it's always good to always get what's the word, assessed. Okay, so I'm going for a reassessment soon or whatever, you know what I mean, because a lot of times we can be diagnosed with something and things can get worse or things can get better. Okay, now I know, you know what I mean, obviously I have been improving, but yet I'm not done. I'm still doing therapy, all this other stuff, peer support, just, you know what I mean, I'm just about growing. But as I grow, I want to reach back and I want to help pull somebody else up. And that's what it's all about. Therefore, I ask, let me connect with you. Okay. You may not, particularly relate to my story or have had those experiences or whatever, but God know who you are. He know, and that's why I say God use me, and He's gonna let this video get to who needs it. You understand what I'm saying? Let them get from it what they need. All right, if that makes sense. But bottom line, know when to say no, and don't be afraid to do so. Okay, don't be afraid to put your foot down, because at the end of the day, they may not be worried about you and worried about how you feel and worried about how it may mess with you either mentally, spiritually, emotionally, or any kind of way. You understand what I'm saying? But you have to take care of yourself. You got to do what's right by you, or for you, should I say? Okay. But anyway, thank y'all for tuning in and thank you for the comments or whatever. Respectfully, y'all. Y'all go. Have a good day. And I'll be back with another video later on. Okay. God bless y'all. Peace.